In November 2025, Congress passed a law forcing the DOJ to release files tied to Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender whose case had already rocked the world. Weeks later, the DOJ complied. What came out wasn't just big, it was historic. 3 million pages, 180,000 photos, celebrities, politicians, power players, and minors. 2,000 videos, emails, texts, internal investigations. It wasn't a document release, it was a digital detonation. Buried inside, explosive names. Former Norwegian Prime Minister Thorbjorn Jagland, described in some materials, is a key Russian asset in Europe. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, including claims he requested medication after encounters with Russian girls. Even the late Stephen Hawking, allegedly present at events detailed in the files. And that's only what surfaced in the first wave. This wasn't just a scandal, it was a map of power, and it went far deeper than anyone expected. The files also name Masha Drokova, once a spokesperson for Putin's youth movement, later rebranded as a Silicon Valley tech entrepreneur. But according to the documents, her role may have been far more strategic, allegedly extracting innovation from Silicon Valley and channeling it back to Russia, reportedly earning her a state honor for services to the Russian Federation. And yes, current U.S. President Donald Trump appears in the archive too. His name shows up in at least 4,500 documents. So far, the newly released records contain no fresh direct criminal accusations against him, though controversy has never exactly been absent from his orbit. But step back for a moment. The Epstein files read like a who's who of global power. Tech giants, Wall Street heavyweights, foreign leaders, even royalty. Different worlds, different countries, one deeply troubling connection. All of them deny wrongdoing, just as Jeffrey Epstein did. And here's where it gets complicated. This story isn't just about one man, it's about influence, leverage, control. I'm Alex Blackwood, and this is Behind the Scenes of Power. Today, we're going deep into the Epstein files. Who was Epstein, really? How did he build relationships with the ultra-elite? Why was everything documented? Was this a blackmail operation? Did foreign intelligence have a role? And why were so many powerful figures photographed alongside future accusers? If you value deep dives like this, hit like or drop a comment. It helps more than you think. And while you're subscribing, let me tell you how this story actually begins. Let's start with the basics. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? Born and raised in New York City, he was teaching math and physics at Manhattan's elite Dalton School in the 1970s. Here's the twist. He studied those subjects in college, but never graduated. And somehow, that didn't slow him down. According to a widely told story, a student's father was so impressed with Epstein that he introduced him to a senior partner at Bear Stearns. That introduction changed his life. Epstein rose fast. Within 4 years, he left to start his own firm, Epstein & Co. At one point, he was reportedly managing over $1 billion. And that level of wealth doesn't just buy luxury, it buys access. Suddenly, Epstein wasn't just rich, he was connected. A mansion in Florida, a sprawling ranch in New Mexico, one of the largest private homes in New York City. But the real power wasn't in the properties, it was in the guest lists. Celebrities, politicians, artists, billionaires. Epstein didn't just make money, he positioned himself at the center of American power, carefully, strategically, and very deliberately. He likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. That's how Donald Trump described Jeffrey Epstein in a 2002 interview with New York Magazine. At the time, almost no one focused on that last line. But as Epstein's influence grew, so did the scrutiny. His circle expanded beyond celebrities to include politicians, billionaires, diplomats, academics, the kind of network that raises questions. Then came 2005. The parents of a 14-year-old girl went to Florida police accusing Epstein of abuse at his Palm Beach mansion. An investigation began immediately. Epstein knew a search warrant had been issued. He didn't run. When police searched the house, they found photographs of young girls on shelves, in drawers, on walls, not hidden, displayed. Later, the Media Herald reported that alleged abuse had been happening for years. In 2007, columnist Michael Wolff recalled Epstein openly saying he liked young girls. When Wolff tried to rephrase it as young women, Epstein reportedly corrected him. When the case reached court, Epstein pled guilty. And then came the deal. He avoided federal charges that could have meant life in prison. Instead, he received 18 months in county jail with work release 6 days a week. He was allowed to leave for his office, even take trips. He served just 13 months. To many, it didn't feel like justice. It felt like someone somewhere was protecting him. By 2008, Epstein was officially classified in New York as a Level 3 sex offender, the highest risk category, meaning authorities believed he was likely to reoffend. And yet, nothing really changed. He kept the money, the mansions, the private jets, the lifestyle. Some high-profile associates distanced themselves, including Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. Others didn't, and a few who stepped away eventually returned. Why? Because Epstein allegedly recorded everything: guests, conversations, encounters. Many believe he held compromise on some of the most powerful people in the world. Then, in December 2010, Epstein was photographed walking through a New York park with a man the press quickly recognized: Prince Andrew, son of Queen Elizabeth. Andrew claimed the meeting was to end their friendship once and for all. Later reports suggested otherwise. Multiple investigations alleged the relationship continued. Andrew denied any wrongdoing, denying assault, denying involvement, denying participation in Epstein's gatherings. But photographs surfaced linking him to Epstein's circle. Eventually, the fallout cost him his royal titles, and the lawsuits followed. One of Epstein's most well-known accusers, Virginia Giuffre, said she was trafficked as a teenager and forced into intercourse with powerful men, including Prince Andrew, an allegation he has consistently denied. She also stated she was first recruited while working at Mar-a-Lago, before being drawn into what she described as a private massage operation serving Epstein and his inner circle. According to her testimony, it wasn't about massages, it was about sex. And by then, the pattern was impossible to ignore. No, it wasn't a mistake. Prince Andrew ultimately reached a multi-million-dollar settlement with Virginia Giuffre. Afterward, she stated she might have been mistaken in parts of her earlier testimony regarding the royal family. Andrew has consistently denied the allegations. The files also reference Elon Musk. In 2012 emails, he appeared to express curiosity about attending one of Epstein's gatherings. Epstein asked how many guests he'd bring. Musk replied that it would be just him and his then-wife Talila Riley. The exchange suggests interest, though not necessarily attendance. And the list doesn't stop there. Photos and documents reportedly mention figures like Richard Branson, Sergey Brin, Howard Lutnick, Steve Tisch, Melania Trump, and others from business, politics, and entertainment. Even some images include celebrities like Michael Jackson, Mick Jagger, and Diana Ross. The broader picture painted by the files is disturbing. Allegations that powerful individuals were connected to a network involving the exploitation of minors, with encounters allegedly photographed and recorded. Images described in the archive reportedly reflect Bill Clinton at Epstein properties, Prince Andrew in social settings, Trump interacting with young women, and Epstein himself behaving inappropriately around girls. One of the first people to speak publicly was Maria Farmer, an artist who worked for Epstein in the 1990s. She alleged that Epstein stole personal photographs, threatened her into silence, and intimidated her when she tried to raise concerns, claims dating back to 1996. Farmer said Epstein had asked her to photograph underage girls by a pool, presenting it as something harmless. Looking back, she said it was anything but. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in New York in July 2019. This time, it felt different.
The allegations were massive, the spotlight was global, and too many powerful names were circling the case for it to quietly disappear. Epstein denied the charges, but before the case could go to trial, he was found dead in his jail cell. The official ruling: suicide. He never testified, never faced cross-examination, never publicly answered the most serious accusations. And just like that, the man at the center of it all was gone. Then the focus shifted to Ghislaine Maxwell. She was arrested in July 2020 in New Hampshire, accused of helping Epstein recruit and groom underage girls. Prosecutors argued she wasn't just assisting, she was instrumental. She allegedly recruited victims, built trust with them, normalized the abuse. In December 2021, a New York jury found her guilty on 5 of 6 counts, including sex trafficking of minors. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison.
Maxwell wasn't just Epstein's partner. She was his connector, the social bridge, the one who introduced him to influential circles, leveraging elite networks that traced back to her own powerful family. If Epstein built the machine, many believe Maxwell helped run it, and through her, the web of connections only grew wider. At this stage, one question matters more than anything else. How did so many members of the American elite become entangled in a scandal of this scale? Some intelligence sources have suggested that Epstein wasn't operating alone, that he may have had connections to foreign intelligence services. Among the millions of released files are references to Moscow, to Vladimir Putin, and to international political contacts. Many of these mentions are vague, some remain classified. There were allegations that Epstein didn't just connect wealthy individuals to victims, he also facilitated introductions between political figures, business leaders, and foreign actors. With the amount of material he allegedly recorded, some believe he held leverage over powerful people. That theory fuels one of the biggest questions in this entire story. Was this just exploitation for profit, or something more strategic? Several public figures named in the files have strongly denied any wrongdoing. Representatives for Bill Gates, for example, have dismissed claims linking him to misconduct as complete nonsense. Still, speculation continues, especially around the scale of documentation Epstein kept and who might have had access to it. Which brings us back to Ghislaine Maxwell and her father, Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell was a British media tycoon surrounded by controversy. Over the years, there were persistent allegations that he had ties to multiple intelligence services, including the Soviet Union and Israel's Mossad, though the full truth remains debated. Some analysts have speculated that Epstein's introduction into elite international circles may have overlapped with networks connected to Maxwell. What's documented is this: Epstein built relationships at the highest levels in politics, finance, academia, and royalty. What remains unclear is whether those relationships were purely social and financial, or part of something far more calculated. The honey trap is one of the oldest tools in intelligence work. The formula is simple: throw a party, invite attractive women, install hidden cameras, capture compromising moments, use the footage as leverage. The recordings are supposed to be secret, but in Epstein's case, some accounts suggest something stranger. Guests allegedly posed for photos, smiling, relaxed, as if nothing needed to be hidden. If true, that wouldn't just be a trap, it would be willing exposure. That's what makes this story so difficult to untangle. Some documents and emails reference attempts to arrange meetings with Russian officials, including mentions of Vladimir Putin. Other materials raise questions about possible Israeli connections. One memo reportedly even suggested the FBI consider whether Epstein had ties to Mossad, a claim never publicly proven. Epstein was known to have contact with former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. Barak acknowledged visiting Epstein and flying on his plane, but denied attending inappropriate gatherings or witnessing misconduct. The web extends further. In 2021, journalist Craig Unger published American Compromat, arguing that Epstein may have played a role in connecting powerful figures, including Donald Trump, to individuals within Russia's orbit. The book presents one interpretation: that Epstein may have been exploited by foreign intelligence rather than formally working for it. That distinction matters because regardless of any geopolitical theory, Epstein remains responsible for his crimes. The newly released files also contain documents referencing Trump, including one allegation claiming Epstein introduced him to a minor at Mar-a-Lago. Allegations like these remain contested, and no court has proven such claims. And that's the core problem. The Epstein story sits at the intersection of power, politics, intelligence, and exploitation. Some facts are proven in court, others remain allegations, and some may never be fully resolved. What's clear is this: Epstein didn't just build relationships, he built leverage. And whether that leverage was personal, financial, or geopolitical, we may never know the full extent of it. One document describes an encounter where two adult men were laughing while a teenage girl felt visibly uncomfortable. Too young, she later said, to understand why she was being mocked. In later filings, she accused Epstein of years of abuse. She did not make specific allegations against Donald Trump in those court documents. Trump has consistently denied wrongdoing related to Epstein. In early 2020, a New York prosecutor stated that Trump had flown on Epstein's private plane more often than previously disclosed. Trump has maintained that their relationship ended long before Epstein's final arrest. At the same time, the Department of Justice noted that some materials submitted to the FBI contained unverified or politically motivated claims. And that's where the story becomes bigger than any one name. Epstein isn't unique in one sense. Scandals involving powerful men and vulnerable victims follow a familiar pattern. Public figures who project influence, wealth, or moral authority sometimes turn out to be living double lives. And again, the victims are minors. Power doesn't always mean billionaire status. It can be social standing, institutional authority, a respected role in politics, religion, business, or media. What makes cases like this especially disturbing is the dehumanization of victims. Too often, survivors are doubted, dismissed, or blamed, even when they were children at the time of the alleged abuse. During court proceedings, Ghislaine Maxwell was reported to have used deeply derogatory language about the girls. That detail alone reveals something chilling. For systems like this to function, victims first have to be stripped of their humanity, and that may be the most disturbing pattern of all. People like Epstein often insulate themselves. They don't recruit victims directly. They delegate, they create layers, and when the law closes in, they negotiate. That's the pattern. In trafficking cases, defendants frequently plead guilty, but to reduce charges, shorter sentences, no life term. That's exactly what happened in 2008. Epstein avoided the most serious federal charges and walked away with a light sentence. The unsettling part: many believe the story is still not finished. The Department of Justice says its review is complete, but millions of files were redacted, faces blacked out, names sealed. Out of the 6 million documents, roughly 3.5 million have been released. So what remains hidden? Some lawmakers argue too much is still classified. Others, across party lines, admit they're uneasy about what further disclosures could reveal. Speculation continues, including theories about possible foreign intelligence exploitation. But speculation isn't proof. What is proven is this: Epstein built a network that touched power at the highest levels. He documented far more than most criminals ever would, and many questions remain unanswered. Maybe more will surface, maybe they won't. But one thing is certain: the full story of Jeffrey Epstein isn't just about one man. It's about power, access, and the systems that protect both. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.